From years of anxiety to warrior and mentor, Bradley Robinson created the Anxiety Project to help you end your anxiety naturally. Let's mold the new you and let's end anxiety together.
Hey everyone, welcome to episode number 28 of the Anxiety Project podcast. I am your host with the most on anxiety recovery, Brad Robinson, here with you today to talk about these habits that you must break in order to overcome anxiety. There's a lot of habits, I'm sure, that's running your day-to-day life that are just completely unhealthy and is holding you back from living your true self, a more peaceful life, and overcoming this debilitating anxiety you currently face. Now, I'm going to talk briefly about my past. I was running countless habits that it was keeping me stagnant in my life. I wasn't going forward. I wasn't growing as a person. I was constantly avoiding challenges. I was constantly diving into certain foods that were unhealthy and doing things every single day that was unconscious. It was completely unconscious. Now, the subconscious runs on habits, and this is really important to understand. We need habits. Our unconscious runs on them. And whether you're doing good habits, like thinking certain ways, having positive, powerful thought patterns, or it could be negative thought patterns that come about every single day. Anger, aggression, resentment, envy, all of this stuff. And our subconscious likes to hold on to patterns, and when we give certain thoughts strong emotion, when we give certain actions certain emotion, what happens? Well, we strengthen that neural pathway and we end up doing the same pattern. We end up running that pattern over and over again. So you may be wondering, why do I think so critically? Why am I so angry all the time? Why am I experiencing anxiety every single day? Why am I so negative? And these are patterns you've been running for a very long time. Who knows how long? I was running certain patterns since I was a teenager, maybe even back a little further than that. I was running patterns that I wasn't being open-minded. I was very narrow-minded, and I was running negative thinking patterns, ruminating over different things like health anxiety, ruminating over ailments that didn't exist. I thought they did in the past, never existed, never accumulated. So what patterns are you running? Now, I'm going to dive right in and talk about habits that are just negative and that need to be changed in order to move forward in life. Now, poor posture. Now, this is an important habit because 55% of our communication is physiology. 55%. Just by changing your posture, you can alter your emotions. You can change how you feel just by altering your posture. And making that a habit instead of slouching is very important. Now, 38% of communication is tone of voice. And the 7% is the words we actually use. So the 55%, the posture, the physiology is crucial to overcoming anxiety. It's very, very important. If you walk around slouched over, you're sending the wrong signals to your brain. You're telling yourself, well, I'm worthless, I'm weak, and the list goes on and on. And, I can't overcome this, and you're slouched over. But when you start to exude a confident posture, you have your back straight, your chin up, sort of like if you have strings attached to, or a string attached to the center of the top of your head, and imagine that something's pulling you up, like something is pulling you upward, and sit or walk in that upright, erect position. And posture makes up your emotions, how you feel. If your back is straight, your chest is out, and you're walking around like that, internally there might be a lot of poor beliefs, or a lot of repressed emotional issues, past traumatic events that need to be taken care of. But your mind opens up when you exude a confident posture. You sort of look at the world differently. You look at yourself differently, and what happens is you say, you know what, I can take on those challenges, those internal challenges. I can face them. I am confident. I am strong. I am powerful. Very important. Another very important habit that needs to change, and you need to break this right now, is negative friends, negative people in your life. And you are who you hang around. Very common phrase, but it is so true. Who do you hang around in your life that's keeping you stagnant, that's keeping you in a negative loop? And knowing who these people are, you can start to change this. And in my life, I knew a few people like that. And I had a best friend who was extremely negative. And I was negative too. I can't blame him, because I contributed to that negative energy. I was constantly saying, the weather sucks. I was constantly saying, this society we live in is too chaotic. It's miserable. Every time we'd hang out, we'd talk about, the relationships, the bad relationships, not being able to find anyone we appreciate, things like that. And it would be constant negative talk. And this needs to change. If you hang around people who are powerful, or who are constantly challenging themselves, who are challenging their beliefs, you end up absorbing their energy as well. And it's all about energy, because we all carry an energy with us. It radiates from our hearts. It radiates outward. And now the energy from our hearts is way more powerful than the energy that we have in our brains. So we can hang around people and feel drained after we hang around them if they have a negative energy, if they have a lot of weight, a lot of traumatic weight to them, that they drain you of your energy. And I felt that a lot when I was hanging around certain people in my life that had this huge negative weight. It really affected me. It drained me. And I could feel that when I left their place. I felt physically drained. I felt exhausted. I felt like I needed to go take a nap. I felt like, I just worked out at the gym for 5 hours. That kind of feeling, it just affected my life. So you are who you hang around, and you need to change your standards. What are your standards? I need you to do some self-reflecting here by looking at the people you spend your day with. Looking at, I spent my day 3 hours with these coworkers, and they just talked so much trash about other people in the office. And I contributed to that conversation because I wanted to feel like I need to fit in. And it's so common because I've been there too. We've all been there. That need to fit in. And when you start contributing to negative conversations, then, you need to do some self-reflection here. You need to say, who am I really hanging around? Is it really worth it? Are these people really worth my energy? Because you're giving them so much of that energy by contributing to the negative conversation, right? The negative conversation, the conversation that is not going to get you anywhere. You're trying too desperately to fit in. And I did this before through many jobs. I tried to fit in by, trying too hard. I wasn't myself, and I was just trying to be somebody else just by, overreacting to their dialogue. I would say things just for the heck of it. I would contribute to the negative conversation just for the heck of it, just so they can recognize my existence. And that's such a bad thing. And what are the expectations of your peers? And that's a great question. What are the expectations of your peer? What are they expecting of you? What is your identity to them? Because, they may think of you as angry Dave, or they might think you as the shy Pete, or, whoever you are, they know your identity. So why not change your identity? Why not shift? And why not be like, today I'm not going to contribute to their conversation. I am going to not say anything and focus on myself. Because when I went through anxiety and when I was going through my recovery, I was focusing on myself, because when you change yourself and you change your internal world, then your external world will change. So you change your identity, you change your beliefs, then all of a sudden you attract different people into your life. Instead of the negative ones that you've always been attracting, the negative relationships, the negative coworkers, the negative friends, then you start attracting positive people. And then all of a sudden, those negative people start to dissipate. They start to leave your life, move away from you, and then the positive people start to come in. So instead of trying to fit in with those negative people, how about you start working on yourself, not contribute to the negative conversation? Or how about you counter the negativity in the conversation when they say, the weather is terrible today. It's just raining all day. You say, I like when it rains because I get to sit inside, have a cup of tea, and enjoy the sound of the rain. Or I get to be productive and work inside today, and I'll take good use of the day instead of worrying about the rain. I work inside and I get a lot done. So there's so many ways to counter negative statements, right? When you start to counter someone's negative responses, you will feel empowered. You'll be like, you know what? Yeah, I am right. It is a good day. And you don't need to fit in order to be joyful and happy and confident. You just need to start to work on yourself, and you will attract those positive people into your life. Giving the negatives energy is another habit. Thoughts and external things. This sort of goes hand in hand with my previous topic of negative friends and coworkers, right? Giving the negatives energy, you're giving too much energy to the negatives. You're pointing out the negatives during the day, and you're not you're not noticing the positives. When you start to counter those negative thoughts with positive thoughts, and I'm going to go on a little bit of a tangent here. I used to be very judgmental towards other people, and a lot of people are, working in Toronto and going to school in Toronto for such a long time. A lot of the people I come into contact with are very judgmental. The friends I used to hang around, everybody, coworkers, a lot of people are very judgmental. And when people are judgmental, they have other deep issues within themselves that they haven't dealt with. They're not fully happy with their lives and who they are. So then they have to go and judge other people. Now, when I was going through anxiety recovery, I started to shift, and I started to, sometimes I would judge somebody, but then in my mind, I'd shift it and be like, I like the color of his shirt. That's a nice color. He has good taste. That's shifting. That's breaking the pattern. I like his shoes. You might judge somebody right away, but then all of a sudden change it. Be like, you know what? I like his watch. He looks good. I like the way he did his hair. I like her handbag. It's a nice color. She has good taste. And start noticing the positives instead of the negatives. Switch it. Very, very important. Constant YouTube and TV. Too much of this, too much stimulation. It's a bad habit. And it's important that you spend time with yourself, to meditate, to be mindful of your surroundings, to go get some exercise, to go for a hike and get away from the influences of other people and online and YouTube. Because when you watch too much YouTube, it's a time waster. And I've done this in the past, and I've experienced a lot of this time wasting. And when you watch like an hour or 2 hours of things, and then you turn it off and be like, okay, and then what? It's like this constant stimulation that's keeping you from focusing on the other issues in your life. And that's important to understand as well. You have to notice the issues that you need to resolve, you need to reflect on. And I love, in replace of YouTube and TV, I love to read. I love to sit outside and have a cup of tea, and sometimes I listen to a podcast that is informative, because there are some things on YouTube that are amazing. And there's so much on YouTube that teaches you. There's lots of lectures, lots of podcasts, but it depends on what you're watching. And, it's okay to limit yourself at like an hour a day. It's perfectly fine. But when you're watching YouTube and TV right before bed, Netflix, then it's an issue, because you shouldn't be stimulating yourself before bed. Bedtime, the time before bed should be an hour of nothing, of meditation. It should be about having a hot bath, giving back to yourself, a little bit of exercise, maybe like stretching, some yoga, meditation, and reading. Things like this is a great way to spend your evening and not watching YouTube or TV. And the last habit I want to talk about today is constantly avoiding challenges, avoiding that work day because you're afraid of showing up late, or you're afraid of not doing a good job, or you're afraid of you haven't got enough sleep, so you're not going to do a good job. There's so many what ifs to avoiding challenges. I'm not going to go for a walk. It's too cold. I'm not going to go to the gym because, why, like, I'm already not in shape. It's like, I'm not going to get to I'm not going to get to being in good shape, and it's just going to take me too long, and I'm just going to avoid it. Avoiding these things, avoiding challenges is not a good way to go. And I used to do this for so long. It's absolutely crazy. I would avoid social gatherings because I didn't want to socialize. I was too shy. I would avoid work days. Like when I was working in the film industry, some days I would avoid going in because I was just too nervous that I wouldn't be good. I wouldn't know what I was doing, and I was afraid of being inadequate and failing. And avoiding these challenges was a huge mistake because the more things I would avoid, the safer I felt. And you can't live this life with being safe. You have to challenge yourself. You have to dip your feet into the cold water, so to speak. You have to face challenges in order to grow. And that's how you know yourself too. Facing anxiety is not an easy thing, but when you face that panic attack and you overcome it, you are rewiring new, empowering, powerful pathways. And you're telling your mammalian brain, you're telling your reptilian brain that, you know what? This situation is not fearful. This situation is actually safe because I didn't run away from this panic attack. I stayed put. I faced this challenge. Whenever you have difficult situations in the day, so you wake up in the morning and you say, I have difficult things I have to face today. I have this meeting that I just don't want to go to because I'm scared of having a panic attack. I'm afraid of talking to these people because I feel so insecure and I feel like a loser. I just don't want to face driving to work because I had a panic attack once when I was driving to work. Instead of looking at it that way, say to yourself, I have these challenges today. And when you say challenges, it sends a different signal. It's different language, different self-talk. And when you say, I have this challenge today, you go and, the panic starts to come in and arise. You will approach it differently. And when you face that panic attack and you not run away and you overcome that challenge, you learn something new, you strengthen new pathways, and you become a more powerful person. So it's all about facing challenges in this life and not avoiding them. Because when you avoid them, you are telling the amygdala in your brain that this is fearful. And if I ever come across this scenario in the future, I will run away again because it's dangerous. It's life-threatening. So when you avoid a situation, a confrontation, or like a meeting or something that's making you nervous, anxious, just remember that the more you run away from something, the more you're telling your reptilian brain, the mammalian brain, that this is scary, this is life-threatening, I need to avoid it. And when you avoid something, you're going to avoid it again and again and again. And it's going to keep looping and it's going to grow bigger. You're going to avoid many things, different things, multiple things. And then what happens? You end up with agoraphobia and you don't even want to leave your house. So it's important to recognize these bad habits that are holding you back from living your true self, to living a more mindful, conscious life, and break these patterns, recognize these patterns. And that's the purpose of this podcast episode, is to get you familiar with these patterns that you unconsciously run. Because remember, the unconscious runs on patterns. It runs on habits, and breaking them and recognizing them and facing your daily difficulties as a challenge rather than, a problem. It's important. It's crucial. And that's where I'm going to leave you today on this podcast episode. I hope you enjoyed this episode. If you haven't already, subscribe on YouTube. I post all the podcast episodes there as well. If you're listening on iTunes, rate and review this podcast. I would greatly appreciate it. And remember, do not let anxiety define who you are. I will see you on the next episode. Bye-bye. For more podcast episodes, for more video content, and one-on-one coaching with me via Skype, visit www.unpluganxiety.com for everything you need to know about ending anxiety naturally. I love you all. Have a great day. Bye-bye.